Hey y'all.
Hello, hello, hello.
No.
Welcome back, Tonya. We missed you.
Oh, I missed you guys too.
And your glasses are super cute, as always.
Thank you. Love these. It's going with my whole Where's Waldo motif. I even have red and white striped socks on, y'all.
You gotta show the nails.
Oh,
Oh yes.
so
I don't know if you know about this, but this was a few years back. There was someone in our neighborhood who was stealing packages dressed up as Where's Waldo.
It was amazing. And someone basically made a wanted poster of them.
It was
But all it did, and it was like, report this person. And I was like, all it does is make me root for them.
right.
I will not be reporting this person. If I see him, I will be like, I spotted him. I won.
Yeah, what do I win?
Like, this is the ultimate Oakland. Like, we don't call the cops. We root on Waldo. We root Waldo on, and then
Right.
tell Amazon to resend our packages.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Like I want to see where the saga ends. I don't want him arrested. I want to see how far he can go.
Good afternoon to him and him only. I hope he's doing well. But other than that, other than looking super cute, because y'all both are really cute, how are you doing?
Mm.
Sandra, this haircut.
Mm.
Thank
my
you.
goodness.
That was the main thing I had going for me this week.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
I left the house twice. Y'all know how much I hate leaving the house, but I was out here in these streets.
What were you doing?
I had meetings because you take way more meetings when you're jobless than when you're employed. So
You are a person now of many jobs.
many. Beyonce told me to release my job, and I didn't. The rest of it was like, and get more jobs, and
And that's what you did. That's what you're doing now, getting more jobs.
It is the other side of releasing your job.
And then I was watching just awful movies on Netflix. I watched the one with Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon, and I was like,
Oh,
it's just letting anybody make rom-coms, huh? It's not ramen and it's not common.
Oh no. I watched the episode of Drew's, like, because I'm home just recovering a little bit and watching Drew Barrymore's
Yeah.
show, and she had Reese Witherspoon on air. And I was like, yeah, her and Drew are just like rom-com queens back in the day, because she just went through a montage of all the movies they were in that were romantic. And I was just like, oh yeah. And I was gonna watch that. I'm still gonna watch it just to see.
You should watch it so we can talk about it.
Yeah, just to see. But yeah,
it's just that they didn't have chemistry. Like Ashton Kutcher and Reese Witherspoon do not have chemistry, and Jesse Williams is in the movie. Fine ass Jesse Williams from Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
From that baseball play. And so like he had way more chemistry with Reese, and it's like, so I'm not supposed to be rooting for this?
Oh, is it like a triangle of some sort?
Kind of, and then like the leads aren't really in one place because the whole thing is about them like swapping like houses. Anyway, watch it.
Y'all are not Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan.
No.
But that's like the swapping.
No, don't even. Absolutely not.
The swapping of places is the same plot as another movie back in the day.
Holiday?
Yeah, Holiday. With Cameron Diaz and the other lady.
Yeah, Rose from Titanic. But
yeah, Rose
was supposed to be
Kate Winslet, yes.
Kate Winslet.
But their swap was like, I'm gonna live in your place, and the person that I'm supposed to be with is where you live.
Right.
This is like Ashton and Reese swap places, but they are supposed to be the couple that you're rooting for.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, not important. It's as boring describing it as it was watching it, but I do want you to see it so I can talk to somebody about it.
Because I won't watch it.
Okay.
I love a rom-com, and Netflix, I like even the good ones and the bad ones, and I find great joy in the bad ones. I did not find joy. Anyway, anything else good this week for y'all?
What was good?
The silence is just
Trying to think.
Woo.
Being home was great this week.
Mhm.
Oh, I've been rereading my favorite author who writes mystery books in London, and so I'm picking spots to go visit.
Nice.
Mystery spots.
Not mystery spots. They're actually kind of really like things that everybody who's gone to London will probably go to, but since I've never been there, I'm excited to finally see. So
I've also never been.
Me neither.
I just read literally as we were logging on that both Adele and Ed Sheeran said that they weren't going to do the coronation, and I was like, Anyway.
wait a minute, they were invited to do it and they said no.
Yeah.
You're like, we're not about to get dragged. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Because you know how I love to spare. All right, let's not get into the monarchy and taking it down. All right, y'all ready to get into this week?
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't take a lot of notes, so this is gonna be off the cuff for real.
That's when we're the best.
Cuff off.
Yeah.
As Beyonce said, cuff it. Okay. We are sweeping this week. Willow is headed home, and Willow is getting their A Walk to Remember marriage. Carly connects Liesl with Willow as we wait to hear if she's a match. Sante is in Europe searching down Maggie Fitzgerald. They eventually find her and find out she's good at naming the Spice Girls. And they find out that Ryan Chamberlain is Esme's father. Speaking of Ryan, he jailbreaks with Heather and amnesiac Esme. Ryan knocks out Mac on the side of the road and heads to Windermere to see Ava. Of course, Felicia is also there. He taunts them and Mac, who calls. Austin looks like he might save the day, but Heather walks in with her hook, and we get a nice little cliffhanger. Valentin and Anna continue to gaslight Deputy Mayor Ashby from their safe house. They get worried because Felicia was supposed to be there, and she is late. But the big sweeping moments of the week were at Black Hospital at Portia and Curtis's nuptials. Stella, with her Bible, does not attend because she is fake sick, but Laura steps in to officiate. Spencer lets Dex know that he doesn't want, he's not wanted around, while Joss and Trina tell Spencer to move around. We find out that Sunny's super illegal shipment will happen about the same time as the Miller wedding. Of course, there will be no overlap. At the reception, Trina notes Stella's absence is hard on Curtis, so she and Spencer head to try to convince Stella to come, while Hat Daddy plays his clarinet. After visiting Stella, it's clear that there are some family secrets that need to be aired out by Portia. Trina confronts Portia and finds out that Curtis might be her dad. Curtis and Taggart find out too, because Trina does not let that secret lie. Curtis and Portia have it out, while Taggart assures Trina she will always be his baby girl. Spencer hears that Esme has escaped and makes a beeline to Trina, who leaves with him. And that was pretty much our week. How are you feeling? What was your favorite moments?
I felt swept. It was sweeping. On multiple storylines that I care about. So I felt cautiously swept. There's always just like a dash of managing your expectations, or at least for me. and with expectations managed, it was quite sweeping. There were actually so many great moments this week that I'm sure we'll get into at the various segments as we Sunday shift. But I think the big like moment that we've all been waiting for is Trina finds out the truth about her questionable paternity. And I'm sure there will be many discussions about performances, but it just felt like we're still getting the payoff for this, which I look forward to more, but I felt very satisfied with what we got. I loved in particular, like, Brooke really knocked my socks off. I thought that she had such a load to carry in terms of like playing all this conflict, trying to like play that I'm holding it together. This is like the happiest moment of my life, and this is also the moment where everything is about to fall apart. I thought she did such a great job of building the tension, and also like still being really rootable, because I'll tell you what, Portia is messy and she did what she did and I stand beside her. So it's Portia, getting her consequences, and I'm still ready to fight Curtis in particular in the streets.
Absolutely. My favorite moment, I just love when things come together and you get like really real moments. So I loved Stella telling Spencer to mind his business. It was just Stella was like, this is my business. This is your business. Somehow you're here when you should be here. Um, I loved it. It was so classy. It was so auntie. And it just was like, for me, it's like one of those moments that makes Sprina so real because like your families are involved. In the same way, I really loved the other moment was the Baldhead Brigade rolling up on Spencer. Like it was like Hat Daddy, Curtis, and and Taggart being like, "You about to tell us?" And he's like, "Gentlemen, gentlemen." They like, "No." You about to tell us what happened. And I really love that because it really does pull them into each other's world, where it's not just, oh, we like each other, it's less across the room, our friends know. It's like, no, this is like an investment in this pairing from the show because they're friends and their family and everybody is involved. So I love those moments for what they were. They were so funny, so like grounded in reality, and that they really showed the show's investment in Sprina, and I always love that. Tonya, what were some of your favorites, and who's your performer of the week?
I agree. Largely, a lot of my favorite moments came from wedding. Namely, what you had already said. The bald-headed brigade was hilarious. Um, Also love the scenes between Trina and Portia, but I'll talk a little bit about those later. So the wedding was primarily it for me. Sandra, I was swept all week. And it wasn't just because of the wedding, but also because of what was happening with Ryan Lavery and his shenanigans. Not Ryan Lavery, Ryan.
Because Ryan Lavery surely was not sleeping.
No. But one thing that was funny though, I saw that people were like, Ryan, like Drew was in his element as the host. He was captivating, he was charming, he was all of that as the host. He put on his best Ryan Lavery as in that show. So that was great. But it was Ryan Chamberlain in his shenanigans that was also sweeping for me. So I loved scenes between Ava and Felicia, and they're at the house. Ava is really trying to figure out what to do with Nicholas's body. Meanwhile, This other big thing in her life is actually getting in the way, and she's torn. She's like, do I turn her away or do I go and get rid of this body? But she mentions Ryan, and so I'm hooked. It was awesome, and how it was total surprise because she was not planning on those two worlds colliding in such a way, and so I enjoyed that whole scenario. It was great, and I was definitely cliffhangered on Thursday, and then still got more on Friday when Ryan just shows up at the door, and she's like, they're all like. I was shocked, even though I shouldn't have been shocked because we knew that was in his mind that he was going to go and get Ava. But just having Felicia there at the same time, that was like great. I love how they did that. And so those two big, stories were really sweeping for me, and I enjoyed it a lot.
I love when they were like Kevin. He was like. It's like hand, like
yes again.
No, I'm not
like
Kevin.
basically that's what he did. It was like let's not waste time on props for this. Let's just slip my hand in here and be like, no.
We got to make sure we get extra long arm sweatshirts.
So, yeah, so that was hilarious.
Aside from John Lindstrom having the time of his life, who was your performer of the week?
Yeah, I would definitely give John Lindstrom props for performances, but I want to give it up to Trina and Portia, Brooke Kerr and Tabiana Ali, because I mean, even though it was much anticipated, it was definitely well paid off. I enjoyed a lot of Brooke Kerr's struggle as she's, portraying, anticipation and dread and all this good stuff. But also definitely enjoyed Tabiana Ali, and, she's, going through denial and anger and then, lack of trust and devastation, all of that. It was perfect. They did a wonderful job. So I want to give props to them. But again, as usual, I have to give props to Nicholas Chavez because, again, as he always does, he entertains me so much throughout the week. And one of my favorite moments was him in support of Trina all week. Just the little things that he showed in his support, where he's standing silently by her, but he's got a smirk on his face, like, it's about to go down. Or like he's standing next to her, and I know you guys saw those scenes where he's like rubbing her back gently, all of that. It really, because that brought two things to mind. One of Spencer supporting Trina, but it also felt a little bit of Nicholas supporting Tabiana, and it's really powerful scenes that she's going through, and he's supporting her in that. I felt those two things just in that small gesture. I loved him, and he annoyed the hell out of me going after Dex, but it was hilarious, so I was there for it. His performance against the bald-headed brigade, loved it. I mean, like he reminds me a lot. His interaction with Taggart reminds me a lot of Nick, his dad's reaction with Taggart when he was dating Gina. It's almost like, I see how important you are in her life, but I ain't scared of you, and you're not going to intimidate me, that kind of thing. That bold, Cassadine swag that he has. And even though, he was not about to give it up, but, they browbeat him into telling a little bit of the story, but he still maintained Trina's dignity and, saying, you need to talk to her, and this is none of my business, but, so, enjoyed him a lot this week. As usual, I'm a stan. I can't help it.
I remember being like, excellent background acting.
Yes.
I think I would also add, I know we already waxed poetic about Vernie at length, but
yeah,
but I could do it again. I loved her scenes with Sprina, for all the reasons that Tracy named, but I also just love, there's just nothing like a Stella reaction, especially when she's like, how much do I say? And like, Trina, you're close, but not quite there. And like, it mirrored for me when she was finding out from Jordan.
Mhm.
But it's like the opposite. She's in the opposite position of like, ooh, 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 I want to say, but it shouldn't be me. And then just she's so active in her reactions. And they're always interesting, and I love like a dramatic stereotypical soap react, but she always adds a little something that's like a little bit more active, like you can see the wheels turning in her head. And that's just decades of mastery. I mean, what can I say?
That's right. I know you named her Tanya, but I just have to like pull out Brooke's performance again. Because if I was like talking about like my top for the week, it 100% is her. Like and it's like really difficult in a really sweeping week to have, Ali Mills amazing, John Lindstrom amazing, Tabiana Ali amazing. Like people were just killing it all over the place. I'm sure people know how I felt about the Liesl Carly scene, but like those two actresses, amazing
Mhm.
together. Um, but Brooke, ugh, it was so good to see her get her due because I think that people forget that Brooke is a legend. Like Brooke is a vet in the game, and so I remember when she was cast as Trina's mom, I was like, "Oh no, this is important." They are saying that Trina is an important character to get Brooke to be her mom. Um, and so as Sandra said, to like move us through all those emotions and not be unlikable. I mean, because like what she did was wild. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we should all be like, oh no. But at the end, I was like, this makes sense to me. Yeah, I get it. I get why you did this. Um, and that's like really powerful, and like having the restrained reaction when she needed to, kind of like raising her voice when she needed to. It just, for me it was Brooke, and just like seeing her get her flowers as a daytime vet has been really great to see. She hasn't really been given a lot of material to sink her teeth into, and so what she showed is when she's given that material, you're gonna get some results, you're gonna get soap. Brooke said, I'm here and I'm here to soap because it's what I've been doing for decades. And I loved it.
Mhm.
And I've been a stan of Brooke since Passion. So that's why I was like so excited to see, the way it went down.
I'm gonna stick beside her.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She's I was like, yeah, yes, Curtis, be quiet.
Can we, yeah, speaking of Brooke Kerr, can we talk about Black General Hospital? So I tweeted um earlier this week that, in the confrontation that Trina had with her mom, in my head, knowing just relationships between Black moms and daughters, my mom would have been like, excuse me, young lady, you need to watch your tone. I don't know who you're talking to, right? And I put it in that with the hashtag Black General Hospital. And I know there's just been some conversation on Twitter about the idea of Black people naming Black General Hospital, as because some folks are upset. Even somebody commented on my tweet, was like, it's not Black General Hospital, it's General Hospital, and that all the actors have good storylines. And I'm like, so here's the thing, people. If I say Black General Hospital, I'm not trying to change the name of General Hospital. I'm pointing out the fact that a lot of the Black actors have a great storyline right now, and is coinciding with the fact that we are in Black History Month. That is all. I'm not trying to change the name of the show. And even if I was, so what? It's not like the producers are going to be like, oh my God, there's some Black people who like the idea of Black General Hospital. Let's change the name. That's not going to happen. So why are you so upset at the idea of the term? That's one thing I wanted to talk about.
I love how offline me and Sandra are because I'm like, I've never heard of this.
So they were just like, people are upset at the idea of us coining a phrase, Black General Hospital. And I'm like, okay, Like, even, one of them even gave like one of those comments where like, well, if you called it white general hospital, y'all would be upset.
You don't need
You
to.
don't
This
need to call
the
it
like
that.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But then there's also some great commentary on the tweet where some people were like, yeah, because it shows people are commenting on it shows that the lack of black writers, that the dialogue didn't really reflect black culture so much. And I can see that in a couple of ways. Whereas, like, as I said, if I had talked to that way to my mom, no matter how old I am, she would clap back at me with the swiftness, right? And Portia didn't really do that, but you see elements of that kind of motif when you're looking at Taggart, because Taggart acts like a black dad for sure. Curtis doesn't really do that because right now, Curtis, I feel, is afraid of Trina and is trying to get on her good side. I kind of feel, and this is how I'm interpreting Portia's relationship with Trina. I think Portia is trying to remind Trina who the mom is, but she's also a little bit fearful of losing Trina at the same time, especially as she's growing up. So it's almost like she's like mama friend type thing. And that's kind of going to be up in the air as they both kind of deal with the aftermath of the truth coming out. I think Stella is definitely black mama and auntie. She acts like it. That's 100% her. And everybody respects her as such. And so it's just interesting that even though, yes, the black characters are getting a lot of storyline, to some audiences and a little bit to me, sometimes they don't feel authentically black. And mainly it's because it's probably like white writers and, them trying to, kind of be in a show that's not trying to be so centric black and African American due to whatever reasons. And so there is a little bit of commentary on that part, but for the most part, I loved this Black General Hospital for this February. The clarinet being back and it being jazzy, loved it. The purple clarinet, the purple outfits, the black men who were fine, love that. All of that. And so I'm 100% in support of this month's iteration of Black General Hospital. We'll see what happens in 2024, but for Black History Month, but I loved it. That's my commentary.
It's so interesting the alignment that we have even when we don't talk before the show, because in my hot takes I was going to ask you all some questions. I can do it now.
Right.
But I was thinking about what it meant, because I also was like, I'm not on Twitter, but I saw some commentary on Instagram about Trina like confronting Portia, and it was like, girl, who you talking to? That's your mama, whatever.
Right.
And I sometimes I don't know. Actually, I don't have a real answer about what it means to like insert black characters into a world that's so white. Because you do, I mean, I do know what you should do, but like it's almost like, because there are times where it's like, oh, well, do you not want Trina to be like the heroine or like the traditional heroine? Because if that's the case, then she's gonna be in these positions that we've like associated with white actresses or white characters. And I think that for me, what I say is that a commitment to diversity is actually not replacing black characters into white stories, but like telling the full story of a character and the full story of their culture. I remember Sandra, you were talking about how with when Terry went on the date with, I forget his name, the one I liked, and I was sad that he left. That it was like last Valentine's Day, and she went on that date, and like you were talking about how important it was that she talked about being like a doctor and like being an Asian doctor and like what that meant. And it was like, I was like, oh yeah, I feel this. And this is not replacing like a white woman going on her first date. This is like very like specific to who Terry is. And I think to Vernie's character, to Stella, this is very specific to a black auntie. It's not like that's Liesl couldn't do what Stella does, or Laura wouldn't do what Stella does. Like this is a very specific to black culture auntie That's why you remember we went crazy when it was like Tim Taggart was at the table. It was like one more game.
Yeah, he was so black.
Like, um, and I think that that part of the story, like those parts of the story, like make it stronger. And it's not that it takes away from it, but it does like mean a real commitment to a different kind of storytelling. And just wondering like what y'all think about that, where you've seen it show up or not show up well.
Even in my thoughts on this, I was thinking generationally too, because I know how I relate to my mom may be different than someone of a younger generation relates to their mom, because of just different dynamics within our culture, where my parents were clearly at an age that they were definitely my parent, whereas there's different generations that react to different things. Millennials react different than Generation X, and so maybe someone of a younger generation like Trina's age don't necessarily relate to their moms in the same way that I did. That's what I was thinking too. So maybe, even my interpretation of how that should have went may have been wrong, because in a different generation they relate to each other in a different way. So that's what I was thinking. I had questions on that.
That was one of the things that I was wondering about, as like Trina being a Gen Z
Right.
person and then being raised by a Gen Xer, and how like class also is a factor in that as well, and like Portia's own family dynamics, and how I was also brought up in a household where the stance was because I say so, because that's how my parents were raised, and how that also evolved over time,
Mhm.
especially as I became an adult. And that wasn't an easy transition, but like there were like cultural things that my parents also evolved around, where they're like, well, that actually doesn't work with an adult child. We had to learn that the hard way though.
Hey,
And so obviously I'm not Black, so it's not my experience, but I also come from like cultures that do have some similar attitudes between parent and child. So I
yeah,
also wonder about Portia just like knew that she was in the wrong.
exactly. But I think it's interesting because even across cultures, like I love my mom to death and I respect her to death, but she had done some wrong things in her life. And when I confronted her on those things, I still approached it in a different way. Even though my mom was clearly wrong, she owed me an apology. She'd owed me a lot of stuff. But still, it was hard for me to be like coming at her with an attitude because I knew I would have gotten popped in the mouth or something like that. And so I was just like, it's interesting how you navigate that, especially as an adult. And it's when you come to realize that your parents are actually people and not, the moms that are supposed to always be right, always supposed to tell you how to do the right thing. And here they are, they're not perfect, and how to confront that. I think there's similarities across cultures in that, um, that we all have to manage.
I was not put off by Trina's reaction. I think to Sandra's point, like, look, Portia knew she was wrong. She was like, Trina gonna be mad. And Trina had a reaction back in the day when she found out about the affair. So it's not like it's like you continue to lie, because I was on Portia's side. I'm still on Portia's side, but I was like, girl, this is wild. You getting into this relationship. Like, this is you maybe you shouldn't have done that.
Right.
Um, it wasn't until she was like leaving the room and said something like, and I damn well, and I was like, whoa, 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 Trina, hold up. Don't be cussing at your mama now. Like it was like that was like a knee-jerk reaction, but I do think it was an interesting, like I said, I didn't see what Twitter had to say about it, but like seeing some people kind of lightly drag Trina on Instagram was like, oh, this is weird.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was weird to me.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I don't
I
remember
actually
that
didn't.
it being as big of a deal for And I also wasn't as online or tapped into the online commentary when Trina first dragged Portia when Sydney played her. And so I just don't remember it being the kind of the big deal that this was. And so I'm curious about why the reaction felt different too.
And I wasn't necessarily actually, I don't have a problem with Trina's reaction. I was just noting Portia's reaction to Trina's reaction because that's different. Obviously, I feel Trina has every right to be mad and upset, but I was just used to, even when I had every right to be mad and upset, my mom's still checking me on the respect thing. And that didn't happen on Portia's end. And so that's what I was reacting to. Because I think even Taggart did it a little bit, right? He came in and said, "You shouldn't talk to your mama like that." And they both ignored her. And so that's what I was looking for from Portia, but that didn't happen. But yeah, and I don't actually, for me, the response that I saw on Twitter was more the idea of us having a black General Hospital moment versus how the performances went. So which to me I felt more needed a discussion point.
I tweeted something and then muted it. Maybe I'll go back and see because even from Sunday Shift, I don't really tweet a lot. I tweet the show and then maybe once in a while if there's a quote or something or like a retweet. And so Tara, friend of the show, Tara, said something like straight hair Portia has less resolve than curly haired Portia. She was like, they pressed out all of her resolve. And then I hashtagged it Black Hospital and GH. So I'm gonna go back and look and see if there's any comments. But I did not know that was a conversation. Of course, I should have guessed if that was gonna be a conversation, but I did not know. Anyway, what's working? what's working on this show right now? Sandra?
Well, I'm like, wow, okay, what's working? I mean, everything we just discussed around Black Hospital is working for me. And I will also say that I'm loving the way that the stories are actually like intersecting and overlapping during sweeps and like actually coming together to make the individual stories more interesting. Like I love this collision course of stories that's happening on Spoon Island and Windermere, because we have Austin and Ava trying to move Nicholas's body, and also like Ava at the wedding, the faces that she was making, #1 background actor, sorry Nicholas Chavez, but more up on background acting, because every time in the back she was Ava, like she was like, I can't believe I'm at this fucking wedding. And my dead husband in the stables back home, but I have to be here and look normal, aka drink martinis in my sparkly purple dress and look fabulous, but also look too drunk and just a mess. I loved Ryan showing up. I was I was gasping at the Hook reappearance.
Right?
I wasn't expecting that.
Right.
I'm just gonna not acknowledge the fact that that Austin could have been hooked. I'm just gonna wait to see what happens because I actually can't speculate anymore about what they're gonna do with Roger if that's the case. Who's Roger gonna come back as next? I'm just gonna assume Austin is safe somehow.
Yeah.
Heather didn't really have time to go get her snake poison, so hopefully he'll be okay. I loved Esme's reaction to finding out Ryan is her father. Something that Avery Pohl is gonna do is scream. Good for her. Great screaming. A+. And I said this to Tracy. I was like, I know that it's like rough because this is part of her redemption arc, but I also am enjoying watching her suffer. I'm enjoying Esme's suffering. So that's my silver lining for that. And then the Sprina of it all too. I'm enjoying I enjoyed like you said, Tonya, I'm enjoying Spencer in the support role this week. And it really being about Trina and her experience. And I'm curious about where they will go next. I mean, they're literally going to the gallery next, but yeah. So I'm loving the intersections. I would like to see Vanna actually in the action, but I do see the breadcrumbs leading to their paths crossing as well. So there's of course more they could do to connect the storylines, but I'm enjoying the intersections more and more.
Yes. I loved 5 Days of Sante.
Yes.
5 Days of Sante? Doing stuff? First of all, they are so cute. Dante just want to get Sam in bed. That's all he wants. And I just remember like when they were like flirting, I was like, "Ooh, Sante, y'all nasty." I like it. Like I just really enjoy them as a pairing. I love them being like an adventure couple, like doing this together. I love, even though we didn't get to see it, like Dante acknowledging how good Sam was at her job. Like we didn't get to see her like shake down the rich people for information, but Dante like alluded to it. And just like, yeah, just like having them in the mix. There's such a good pairing. Like both of them, I think, are good drivers of story. They're so good with background actors and with like day players. I just really enjoyed having Sante on 5 days. I knew we were gonna have them for I think 3. And so the other 2, I was like, surprise, Sante. Yeah, because this year's 20 years for Kelly Monaco. So just like having her in this pairing and actually like investing in it was really exciting for me this week. So that's what I loved. Sante, 5 Days of Sante. Let's do 5 more.
I loved that like Dante is so used to just being there to like add a little like Sante sexy spiciness that like it's like he forgot, oh, we have a job to do. Oh, like we actually have a storyline to move. We're not just here to be pretty and to be sexy. We actually, like Sam had to be like, refocus. Okay, I'll have sex with you if we just go do these other things. All right. She understands how to motivate her man. And I appreciate that. And again, I appreciate them actually closing the loop and finding Maggie almost a year later.
Finally.
But and that like it is going to be a major driver in the storyline moving forward. And so I love that. Just another intersecting line.
But we gotta pay Dante some more. We gotta pay Dante some more because Dante is tired of being a part of these paternity reveals. He is over it. Okay. He's like, I gotta find out about Nicholas and Esme firsthand. And then I gotta find out about Esme and Ryan. Each time his face was like, what?
He said, this is very ghetto.
0 out of 0. Do not recommend. Or 0 out of 10. Do not recommend.
He's like, I thought my paternity struggles have been challenging, but at least, Ryan Chamberlain was never part of any of them.
Yeah, I actually had a little bit different reaction to Sante. I love seeing Sante all week. I actually would have preferred more of the romance because I kind of felt like the reveal was a little anticlimactic to me. And I really felt like It would have been more awesome if they actually did make love and they were 100% focused on each other, and then they found Maggie by accident. Because that's, because to me, that's what I would have wanted to see. Because Maggie, and this is going a little bit into what didn't work for me, Maggie was weird. I'm just like, how are you going to be like, okay, yeah, I understand what she didn't want them to know it was her, but then she makes plans to leave, and then she almost assaults Dante. I'm like, why? Why? I mean, just the fact that you knew Esme and who her father is, that means you should go and assault a guy over it? Just say, no, I don't want to talk to you, and then leave it at that. Even if he was a cop of the US, that doesn't mean you have to answer any questions that he gives you. You could be like, no, I don't want to talk to y'all. Leave me alone. But she's like almost assaulting him. I just like, ugh. And the fact
Well,
that
she thought that Ryan sent him. That's why.
oh, I was just like,
She was just weird, and I love how they wanted to make sure that you knew they were in England. They were like, "Here's a cricket bat because we don't know about real bats," and like,
I also, what I didn't like about this about Sante's arc for this week was that they didn't immediately know that this is Maggie.
right.
You know, like she's an Irish, I guess that's what her accent was supposed to be. She's an Irish person with red ass hair. She's got a like this. Who could be more Maggie Fitzgerald? Itchy ass person that you're talking to that's like, oh, I don't know. I think her name was Marjorie.
She was
This is Maggie Fitzgerald Sante. I didn't like that they didn't figure that out immediately. And for me, it's like I like to see Sam be good at her job. I don't like it when they dumb her down because they're not ready to reveal information yet.
right.
And so that was, yeah. That was actually the thing about Sante that I was like, could you be better at your jobs?
Yeah.
I have been so thirsty for Sante that 5 days I was like, "Fuck it, let's stress this out."
I did enjoy that she was there to save him from being assaulted by Maggie. I like that. So, and she was quick to ask, maybe I should just ask the landlord lady of the Airbnb. Do you know these people? So, I like that. So I guess I'm going to go into what also doesn't work. I mean, that was just a minor didn't work. I really enjoyed their whole line, their scenes. What's not working for me is this Pikeman shipment storyline with Sunny and Michael. I almost thought that Michael was gonna thaw a little bit this week, given the circumstances he's in with Willow and them, but it sounds like he's probably not. He's still gonna go with this plan to bring Sunny down, which fine, bring him down or don't bring him down. I'm just tired of the story. I'm done, and so just let it be over because I'm done with it. It's boring. It's like ugh. And then also the Liesel versus Carly go way harder on Carly than she did. And Lisa wasn't nearly as mean and brutal to Carly as I thought she would be. So I was actually a little disappointed, even though it was definitely greatly acted. But I really thought Lisa was going to be a little bit more evil. And so I don't feel, I feel like Carly's real true nemesis in my mind is only Ava, because everybody comes at Carly hella weak, I think. Personally, Carly can go toe to toe with a lot of people, but some people aren't giving it back as much as I expect them to. So, but I mean, I was really expecting Lisa to go in. At the end, she was, but I think she's probably going through a metamorphosis given the loss of Britt, which is fine. But I was more looking for more drama.
Yeah, I think I was actually surprised by that too.
Yeah.
I think that Carly not being wild to her disarmed her a little bit.
Right.
And they were like trying to make way for the like Carly connects her with Willow situation. I didn't like what Liesl said to her. Like, it just didn't make any sense. She was like, "You don't know this pain." I'm like, do people forget Carly's history?
Right.
She lost a kid and miscarried. Um, it was, it was just like or miscarried twice. So it was just like a really weird, yeah, it was like a really weird conversation, or like being like keeping a kid away from her family. I'm like, let's call Robin and see what she thinks about what you've done and what you were talking about, Liesl, because it feels
Right.
like you maybe have forgotten a little bit of your history. And so it's like this thing they do when people are like redeemed is like act as if their history doesn't matter, when it's like, no, it just means that we are able to move forward with story despite the things that they've done. Not that they should be able to like forget the things that they've done. It's like a really weird, I don't know. I wasn't a fan. Um, what's not working for me is that nobody's acting like Anna's dead. I'm like, what's going on? Like, the only people who know that Anna is like alive are Laura, Valentine, or not Valentine. It's like Laura, Felicia, and Alexis. And no one else is operating as if Anna Devane is dead. Or Lucy. This is not working for me. And I think it just like speaks to like a bigger issue of the show, where they're just like, we just gonna make shit work when we feel like it. Doesn't matter if it makes sense, doesn't matter if um other characters should be acting in a different way. You're telling me that Dante doesn't care that Anna's dead?
Dante also is like, his sister-in-law is dying and he went on vacation with Bay.
Yeah. Or Mac. Mac should be definitely.
Right. Max just like, oh,
And he should be looking at Felicia
sure
like, you're not upset?
Right.
Sorry. Anna is alive, because he did name that like Felicia is like sneaking off into the middle, in the middle of the night. So I think he probably is probably picking up cues from Felicia and how she's acting that Anna's not actually dead. But that's still, I'm having to do a lot of work in order to make that make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like coming to GH to do work for them,
Jordan.
I spend a lot of disbelief already. Please don't make me work like this. I'm tired.
Jordan doesn't care that Anna's dead.
Yeah, that's another
Jordan.
It's even something that could be remedied by a little like wink wink, like, oh yeah, Anna's dead. But it undermines the gaslighting. Yeah. And like that Victor should believe, like,
yeah, I mean, just for the sake of putting up appearances, Victor might be like, wait a minute, why don't people care that Anna's dead?
right.
So you got to pull on the full act.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, I would love Felicia acting badly. Like, I would love Felicia being like, oh no, my best friend.
Like Victor did. I mean, when Victor put up a front, he was 100%.
Right.
And they're not giving him that same respect. So I'm offended on his behalf.
Ham it up. Ham it up. Right. Felicia, you got it in you.
I love some Felicia bad acting. I would love for Felicia to be doing that, and then for Alexis to be like, please.
Like for Felicia to put on some bad mascara so that it runs. She's like, I got the drugstore shit, okay?
We need it. It's just like, to me, like, it just like speaks to how GH just like, it's hard to speculate or whatever, because they just do shit to do it. They're like, it doesn't matter if it makes sense or connects, we're just doing it because we said so. And that's like nobody caring about Anna Devane being dead is like, does somebody call Robin? Is she like clued in on this? Like, what's going on? Anyway. What about you, Sandra? What's not working for you?
Um, the Millow hospice wedding is not working for me. Why? It is I have been talking a lot about how GH is, instead of doing 4 weddings and a funeral, they're doing 4 funerals and a wedding. But y'all are really like serious about that and combining the wedding and funeral vibes. And like, is Willow like, is this just like her thing? Like deathbed weddings? Because I'm pretty sure the last wedding she had. So is like someone gonna come in and put the ring on Michael for her? Are we just gonna like copy and paste that whole thing? And like, I just also this like thought that it would be challenging for Willow to go die at home. Like, I'm just like, these people are rich as hell, and this is a house. This is the chief of whatever Monica's role is. I guess she's a chair of the board or whatever. But like, you're in Monica Quartermain's house. Just the whole thing. It's also like, it contributes to the lack of continuity in the stories. Like, having this morbid ass storyline and now wedding attached to it in the middle of all this like really action oriented and like actual real dramatic reveals happening. And then in there is this like sad but also like something that should have stakes but doesn't, because Willow seems like suicidal. In that like Michael had to like check in with her, like, well, if we find a bone marrow match, you are gonna take it, right? Like, he shouldn't even have to ask that. But because of her behavior this whole other time, it actually made sense for him to be like, I just want to check in to see if you'll accept this like life-saving treatment that will keep you in your family's lives. And I don't know, just like keep you alive. Do you have any like drive to live? I don't know. I will say that like Katie plays the like sickly dying person well. So props for her. I'd like to give her something else to do.
Is that
What? It was a compliment.
Yep.
Not a backhanded one. I'm doing the like what she can with the material, but like give this girl something else to do. What can she do with this awful ass writing? So
That storyline is so exhausting. And like when it wasn't featured, to like think about how much more enjoyable the show is when it's not heavily featured, it's like wild.
Yep.
Somebody dropped the episode count actually. Let's see if I can find it. And it was interesting that like Sunny is at like the top of the episode count, but has so little story. Like his story is Pikeman, and it is awful. But he has, I think it might be like Nicolas Chavez might be like the person who has more episodes than him, and then it's like him and Nina. I'm like, ooh, woof.
Prolific background actors.
Ooh.
I didn't say best though. I said prolific.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
Don't you know what hot takes?
That's a hot take. So let's back on.
Very much a hot take.
Please, let's who has hot takes? I don't know if y'all want to just do round robin because I have a few.
I don't have very many or any. I don't have any.
fully formed takes, but I got some vibes. Yeah.
So shout out to Ray, who's a mutual, who was talking about how damn Ryan Chamberlain turns up on all of Curtis's wedding days. Like every time Curtis gets married, Ryan Chamberlain goes on a streak.
It also doesn't ever go well for Ava either.
Right.
Like specific, like Ryan created chaos and devastation for Ava.
Every time.
Every time. Damn. I really got a shout out to the Vanna yoga scene.
Oh yes, I enjoyed that so much.
It was giving. Because what Finola said is, I'm flexible.
I was like singing Janelle Monáe's yoga. Like, I'm not gonna do it now because we don't have the rights, but look that song up.
Google it, Frank. I loved just how well, first of all, just getting to see them getting creative about where the scenes are playing out and like having different things for the characters to do. It also made me curious about where that scene was conceptualized and how much like Finola and JPS may or may not have shaped it. But I also I loved how natural they were with each other. There's just so much ease in their body language, and it was just like so natural to see them playing out a scene, like a home scene, but they're on the run, and they're kind of like stuck in this one setting, but their scenes are always really dynamic, really grounded in their connection, and which is like such a great mixture of like sweet and funny, a little spicy. And similarly, I love how Valentine also has the same reaction that I do to Anna haunting people. He's just like, I thought it was hot. Highly relatable. I talked about this at length last week. So I just am vibing really hard. Yeah.
You said, Anna, I want Anna to haunt me, is what you said last week.
Haunt me, Anna.
I have to give props to James because he does well in awkward situations. I find it funny. I love it. Like it reminded me of when he was in that cornhole thing. He's great. That's why he's great and he does great at comedy. That's why he's on the Disney Channel and doing well. So yay.
I just really enjoyed so much of Ryan and Heather. Like when Heather went to Ryan's room and put up a Valentine, and then he started talking about Ava, so she took that shit down. It was like so subtle, but so funny. Like Allie Mills and John Lyncham are having the time of their lives, and so am I. Every time they're on screen, it just pops. It's so funny. Like when Ryan saw Mac, he was like, "Hello, Mac." Like it was the whole thing. It was just like every time he like drags Nicholas, I laugh. Like every time. Just they're so good. They're just so good. I can't even get over how good they are.
He shanked the guard, I was laughing my ass off. It was like, oh, Ryan. How did I have that reaction? It's just they're just that delightful to watch.
What I love about Allie Mills is that I don't actually know whether or not Heather's loyal to Ryan or not. Like part of me believes that if she actually gets caught, she'll be like, Ryan made me do it. He did everything. Like, I totally believe that she would do that because, especially the way she's interacting with Esme, it's like saying, don't trust Ryan or don't do this. And then the next, she's like, let's go with Ryan. It's like almost like I don't know which way she's going. And I love that. Like, really, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To
she's
keep us on our
like,
toes.
yes, extreme, unpredictable behavior, and somehow like rootable.
Right.
Like, I've always enjoyed Heather's character. Like, I mean, Robin Mattson is a legend. Like, and there's something about Ally Mills' portrayal of Heather in this particular like dynamic that makes her character really rootable in a way that I never thought I would root for Heather. I mean, it does help that kind of the three people in the situation are Ryan, Heather, and Esme, so it is kind of easy to root for Heather, relatively speaking. Because like I love Ryan, I love Ryan's storylines, but I can't say that I've ever rooted for him. Quite not that in touch with my dark side.
There's something about I really hate this. I did tap in to a little bit of seeing, not even adding onto, but seeing this conversation about whether Esme should be with Cameron. And I'm just like, I don't want Cameron to be with someone who sexually exploited him. I don't know why that's difficult. Like, how many lessons do we have to learn from Luke and Laura? That this ain't cute. And it's like, how are we rooting for, like, it's really difficult to root for like diversity on a show or root for like Black actresses when we root for their tormentors to like have good things on screen. They shouldn't have written Esme's story the way they did if they wanted Esme to be viable. Now, granted, I'm sure that they will still redeem her in the ways that they've redeemed Liesel. So it's like redeemed to everybody but me. But they just shouldn't have written the story this way. It was too many racial over and undertones that weren't addressed. It was too much cruelty. It was too much. It was just too much for them to believe that this is going to be like what makes me feel differently about it. Like when I think about Ava's redemption story, I think about how it changed her.
Mm-hmm.
And at the root, I don't even think that she was like an awful person. I think she was doing things like for survival. With Esme, like there was an enjoyment of the cruelty. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna send Trina to jail. What up?" Like, yeah, she might not be the hook, but she was gonna kill Oz Haggerty. Like, there was like too much enjoyment of the cruelty for me to be like, oh, she's going through tough things, now it's fine. No, it's not fine. I'm just not a fan of it.
Yeah, this comes into play where we're having to do the work, Sandra, that you had talked about to actually convince ourselves that this is a different Esme. Like they're forcing us to do that work. And I think it's going to be a little difficult, I think. For me, like there's so many like I agree with you. They shouldn't have written her that way, and they knew ahead enough time whether or not they wanted to keep Avery Pohl. They didn't have to write that story. Avery Pohl was excellent from the get. And so if they wanted to keep her, they should have written a story that made it palatable for us to keep her. But they didn't do that. And so that's GH writing's bad. I think there's still opportunity to correct. I don't know. I'm really curious on how, even if Esme never regains her memory, how she deals with and confronts and kind of rectifies her past behavior. If she does that, even if she doesn't remember it, there might be a chance for me. But if we get GH has to do some real work on that.
They can keep her around, but she's gonna be a villain.
Right.
Is kind of how I feel about it. It's like, you know, or you can twin her, or there are all these different tropes you can go into. And I also I am how deep in the psychology of the fandom do I want to get into? Not too deep. But I think it says a lot about, it says more about people's willingness to entertain that as a storyline that they want. It just says something about their taste. And I actually haven't seen the indicators that they're going to put Cam with Avery, or put Cam and Esme together. They haven't even crossed paths on the show. Right. So I think it's very weird that people would speculate that way. That's all I'll say about that. Because I actually I haven't seen any indication that they're going to be together. So I'm not going to worry about it, but I am that Michael Jordan meme. Seek help. What?
Some more takes?
More takes? So I would highly recommend watching this last Jordan and Portia scene, or really any Jordan and Portia scene, on mute, and see what you think the scene is about. Because what I was picking up, like when I watched those scenes on mute, and like forgot about what the dialogue was, it looked like Jordan was like trying to convince Portia to leave Curtis for her. That was the energy. Maybe I'm projecting a little bit. It's always a possibility. But for me, that's where the real Cam was this week. I have a whole like universe of Georgia fanfic just living in my head. So, text me, Frank, because there's potential there that you have not yet unlocked. But watch the scenes on mute and you'll see what I see.
All right.
I just wonder, what hotel is Stella at?
I was very confused about that.
And didn't look Metro Cordy?
Well, because the wedding and the wedding, though it looked like they were outside of a church, but the wedding and the reception are at the Metro Court.
Right.
And when Trina and Spencer left, they had coats on.
Yeah, like they had left the Metro Court to go to a different hotel where Stella was staying.
Interesting.
Anyway, that was just my thing. Also, speaking of Brian Lavery, I wrote Drew Matheson is in his bag. MC Drew Matheson is in his bag. And also, don't they have more money than this? Why is Josh the videographer?
Yes.
Was that supposed to be Trina's job? That's what I was thinking. Like she was trying to take over Trina's work while she was gone.
Y'all, but they are rich. If they're rich enough to live in Jax's house, they should be rich enough to hire someone.
It's true.
I guess the champagne room is not doing as well as it needs to be doing.
Curtis, I mean, it's doing fine. Didn't Brad just drop off like a stack of money?
How is it? What is Curtis doing with that money though? He has to account for it. So he's doing a little bit of shady money laundering of some sort.
Oh, you mean Curtis has a secret that he hasn't told Portia about that would have impact her life?
Ooh, shocking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, so let's talk about the Spencer and Dex moment, because Tracy can confirm. I felt like an embarrassed parent. I was like getting so tense, like, okay, you are a guest. You are Trina's guest.
Right, acting a fool.
You shouldn't have even been invited to this wedding. It was a goddamn miracle that Portia allowed this to happen. You are very close to fumbling the bag, sir. What's wrong with you? I actually don't really care about him being a snotty little bitch, because that's one of the things I like about him. I'm not gonna lie. I don't mind him beefing with Dex. I think it's silly, but whatever. Men are silly. Um, but it was him embarrassing Trina in public and her being like, you need to stop, and him not stopping. I just feel like, as I just think about Nicholas at his age, and he would have never acted so undignified as a guest at an event, a black tie event, and you're out here ordering around the help. Mm-mm. It was unbecoming. It was unbecoming. And I would have liked Trina to have a little bit more heat for him after it. Like she did, like she did, I think, confided in Ava about it, but I would have liked for her to be like, when they were getting ready to dance, and have them like kind of have some resolution of that. Maybe it'll come up in their scene on Monday. But my child embarrassed me in public by embarrassing Trina.
Yeah, I mean, I am fine with mostly Scotty Spencer. I thought that he kind of was growing out of that. I thought that that's what the time at Kelly's was about, and um maybe he would have like a moment to revert back to that, but not to like be fully back into it. I think that what like frustrated me is that I think that they do these things sometimes with Spencer that that they forget why we like Sprina. And so I think for me, one of the things that was special about Sprina, or is special about Sprina, is that Trina can make him come up short. And it's not that Trina has to correct him, it is that he self-corrects when he sees Trina, which is the difference between a character like doing better for themselves or having to be saved. And so in the past, like I don't know, like one of the signature Sprina scenes obviously is when Trina gets upset, leaves from the hospital because she finds out about the affair, catches Spencer sitting outside at Kelly's. And in that scene, Spencer's being like a dick to Cam. But the moment Trina shows up, that locks down because he's there for Trina, right? And that's what makes Trina special. And so to have a scene where he not only kept being a dick when he saw Trina, but kept being a dick after Trina told him to stop, was like, this actually isn't what we love about Sprina. And it was actually unnecessary. Like all of the other things, especially to Sandra's point, if they weren't gonna like really follow through with Trina snapping on him, could have been like handled if he would have like, you know, caught himself, or if Trina wouldn't have seen the whole thing, or if Spencer was kind of being a jerk before Trina came up and Jocelyn saw it, but when Trina came up, he stopped himself. I just feel like it was a believable scene, and it's like not in line with what I like about Sprina.
Yeah, I'm in a cross between what you feel, Sandra, and still liking him coming for Dex because I'm still mad on Cameron's behalf. So I almost feel like he's reacting to an innate sense that Jocelyn wronged Cameron because of Dex, and he's still acting petty because of that. And Trina doesn't know that. And so he's like, no, I need to make this guy a fool. I need to make him feel bad. I need to make him be punished. And that is overriding his usual respect for Trina. And so I'm upset on behalf of Trina. Like you said, he embarrassed her in public, but at the same time, I'm here for it. So I don't know. It's like I'm torn. I don't know what to do. Still on me.
I do think that it is a little different from his usual snotty ass behavior because it is actually motivated by his love for Cam, who is actually the person who got this snotty ass behavior the most, like historically from him. So that is, I mean, it is a little different. I don't know if I'd call it growth, but it is not the same as it's been in the past, that you can see where the motivation is. I just don't like it though.
I have no feelings for Cam, so I'm fine with it. I don't like Dex particularly. Like I actually do like Jocelyn and Dex as a pairing. I think they have chemistry. I'm excited to see where they go as a couple. In the same usual way that I like a couple. Like I like the woman and the man is there. Um I they're like, that's why like Sprina, for example, is so special because I like both of them coming like apart and together. I like them both. So Spencer saying something crazy to Dex, like I don't care about. Because like I don't really care about Dex. Um, but I certainly don't care about him defending him.
I care about him defending Cam insofar as I care about Cam and Spencer's relationship. I don't agree with the reason why he's doing it because I don't think it's any of his business. But also, when you're 20, your friend's business is your business, is your business, is your business. So
Absolutely.
again, it's not the worst thing he's ever done. Not even close. Definitely not to Trina. But I found it to be unbecoming. Again, that's my major takeaway. This is unbecoming.
And when you say that, I'm thinking of Victor. If Victor came across that, he would have been like, oh,
this is undignified.
Dignified. And I think he embarrassed Laura too, out in the streets acting a fool.
Yes. You have to, he just needs to learn how to execute his pettiness with a little bit more like artfulness and strategy.
And he has to grow into that,
Yeah.
apparently. Because, Nicholas obviously didn't give him a good role model. So
it does not come naturally to my child.
No. Courtney's, that's like Courtney's side. So here's the part where I drag Nina.
Uh-oh.
Because
Nina even on?
Huh?
Was Nina even on?
Yeah, she was
Nina
being
was
all
on every day.
She's
But
being
did she have any lines?
She did.
Oh, I must have stepped out for snacks.
You do step out for snacks anytime they're on. I'm going to review the episode count. Nicolas Chavez, 24. Rebecca Hertz, 24. Becky out here. Mo, 23. Cynthia Watros, 23. Chad Duell and Eden McCoy are both at 20. Moore is at 19. And then Caitlin Cameron and Laura Wright are all at 18. So Nina been on. Um, here's my thing. So all she does is whine and complain. People treat me like a pariah. And they don't. So Drew tries to be nice to her, have some really awkward conversation and small talk. What does Nina do? Act a fool. Um, I don't know why we had to have so much Sona interruption of a Black Hospital wedding. I don't care about y'all or y'all relationship, what you got going on. Um, the weirdness of her constantly trying to feed Sunny. I'm like, what are they trying to do? Like to show that she has like this, like their relationship is different. Because Sunny is like the cook. So he was always the person who was like feeding people. But every time it's like, oh, let me go get you some food. And it's like they like basically treat her like a child. Like it's like she leaves and Sunny's like, thanks for babysitting her, Ava. Thanks for being her friend. Like what you would say to like a child who's playing with your like boring child. I don't have kids. Maybe you don't say that to your boring child, but you're Sandra. But you know, like it's like very much like thank you for being friends with her. Okay. Um, I just like even when she like left to get Sunny a plate of food and then she like comes back, Sunny's like, whatever, let me go talk to Laura. We'll go find another adult here. It's not giving. It's just not giving. There was supposed to be a scene with her and Joss. I guess they decided to cut that off, which is good because I'd have been even more upset. Um, but yeah. Or when Sunny was like, I wonder what happened with Trina. Like it looked tense at the end. She's like, well, you know, whatever happened, it's not as bad as me and my daughter. Nina, get it together. Or don't. I don't know. But she annoyed me this week, and I wanted to talk about it. She annoys me every week, every time I see her. Thank you.
You're welcome. No, thank you.
I just like don't pay attention to her, so I didn't even remember that these things happened, but they did jog my memory a little bit. I will say that I am curious about their contracts. And will they have such a high what's the term? The
Episode count?
Yeah. Will they have such a high guarantee in future contracts? Because it doesn't seem like GH is really interested in using Sunny or Nina in a interesting or meaningful way. They just seem to be in the background a lot. I know, especially with Sunny. So I don't like seeing them all the time, but if that is just their contract, I'm glad to not have them. I would rather see them sprinkled in randomly than be forced to watch like a full ass storyline that they're driving. So that's the harm reductionist in me. I'm like, ugh, if they have to be around, I'm glad it's like this. And not them actually having a full rich storyline.
You're so smart. This is true. Um, yeah, this is true.
And I will say, they're not a big part, at least of the spoiler breakdown for next week. I'm sure they'll be around in the background. What I also will say about Nina making a plate for Sunny was the cheese at least cut into pieces? Because maybe that's why she's making him plates. Because now he's making her plate. He just gives her a hunk of cheese to gnaw on. He doesn't slice it.
I love how upset that made you. Can I say a couple Trina things?
Mm-hmm.
I love y'all know I love me some Trina and TJ. So when TJ was like, "You're more than a step cousin, you're like my little sister." First I was like, could that really be true? But then I was like, no. But then also, I just really loved it. I thought it was very sweet. I really do love the chemistry and the bond between Tabiana and Taj, and like watching that translate over to their like familiar relationship on the show. I think it's really sweet, and TJ just continues to be the sweetest. I loved when Trina was talking to Spencer, and she was like, "I feel beautiful." Is that weird to say? And I was like, "Flex, Trina, flex." As you should, because you look beautiful. She was so pretty in pink, adorable, gorgeous, all the things. Um, I loved watching both Spencer and Joss watch Trina walk down the aisle. And I was like, that's the true love triangle right there. Sprina versus Tross. Because they both were like, this is the love of my life. Like walking down this aisle. And I love it. I just really to have someone like Trina, to have like a young black woman be like so focal in the story is so special. And to like have people talk about her in this very special way. So when Sunny and Laura were talking about her, then they're like, do you see how Spencer like lights up with her? And like it's just like, I love that Trina is such a great character that even when she's not around, people have great things to say about her. So that's my loving on Trina.
Love. Any other hot takes?
When did Cam get a dorm room?
He has a dorm room?
That's what Liz said. Because she was like, I'm gonna go home by myself because Aiden and Jake are with friends and Cam's at the dorms.
Maybe he got one for the spring semester.
Damn, I hope you don't have to see Josh and Dex on campus.
I hope he does. Because I love the drama.
I was gonna also say when I heard Ava say "I'm a survivor" to Austin, the Reba theme song played in my head. And very much nothing having to do with Ava. Ava is not a single mom. She's not. She didn't have to work with her hands in the way that Reba did. But that is the song I heard in the background when Ava said she was a survivor.
See, the person that I associate that song with on GH is actually Cameron. Just single dad that loves his kids, sons. And, Spencer's brother eventually when he has to raise him.
Oh my God. For those who are not on video, Tracy has died. So
Cameron is Reba. I gotta go. I don't have any. There's no hotter.
I also want to see him do the little, the Reba memeable nod. That, yes. So William, I don't know if you've ever seen the show before, but Google it.
Cameron is Reba. There is no hotter take. Tell us what's happening next week.
Okay, another sweeping week ahead. Well, I don't know if y'all know this, but Sprina's gonna kiss. Sprina is gonna kiss. So we don't have to ask the question anymore. When's Sprina gonna kiss? It's happening.
It's happening in February. I was hoping for Valentine's Day, but it's happening in February, so it's all good.
And it's
It might still be Valentine's Day.
Still Valentine's
Day.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So the preview scene has them at the gallery. Their spot. Because the parapet I think is going to be called for and used for something else, I'm assuming at some point. But yes, so Monday, Portia has some explaining to do. I don't agree, but I guess she will be explaining herself further to Curtis. There was a preview scene that GH posted, Curtis being indignant and asking Portia, were you planning on dying with this secret? And so what if she was? Obviously she was. She wasn't going to tell you. What do you want her to say? Anyway, Spencer comforts Trina with his mouth, apparently. Meanwhile, Mac and Jordan race to stop a crime. Alexis confirms her theory. Lauren and Kevin have much to discuss. They do. Much. So glad that the actor that plays Kevin is available. I've been missing him, while the actor that plays Ryan Chamberlain has been very busy. On Tuesday, Heather makes a shocking move. Felicia tends to an injured friend. Curtis confides in Marshall. Ava hears a stunning confession. Alexis briefs Spencer and Trina. On Wednesday, Liz pleads with Scott. What, to let you go to jail? I feel like that's what she's pleading for. Poor Cam. Taggart seeks out Portia. Leave her alone. Esme needs medical attention. She's about to have her baby out in the woods of Spoon Island. Because I think she does at some point in this week break off, like use the chaos that Ryan's kind of generating at Windermere to try and escape. So I'm assuming she has, the classic. I feel like more babies have been born in the woods on GH than in the hospital. So
yes,
and just another rite of passage for pregnant people on GH. Meanwhile, shots ring out on Spoon Island, and Mac delivers heavy news. Is he finally telling people that Anna's dead? Meanwhile, on Thursday, I've said meanwhile a lot. It's a thing. On Thursday, Sunny asks Brooklyn for help. Hasn't she been through enough? I don't stand, but I guess I'm defending Brooklyn with my life now. Dex tells a half-truth. Carly provides emotional support. You'll love this, Tracy. Nina issues a warning to Drew. Tracy's covering her camera. Sasha is determined. And then Friday, Dante and Jordan lead an interrogation. Damn, Dante's already back. They got them back on the jet, I guess. Jocelyn has mixed emotions. Laura and Sunny comfort Spencer. Scott seeks out Robert. Esme is worried. That's the week.
Why are they comforting Spencer? Is it coming out Nicholas is dead, or the reaction to him leaving town?
I feel like maybe it's about Nicholas being dead or presumed dead.
Right.
I really want Nicholas's body to not be in the stables when they go back to retrieve it. That's what I really want.
Yeah, that it's gone.
maybe it shows up somewhere else, or maybe they figure out that Nicholas is dead in some other way. Or I wonder if who else, someone gets shot at Spoon Island that is upsetting to Spencer. I can't think of who that would be though. I will say that with Jex, I am reserving any investment for them until we see how the play out of him keeping his secrets from her. Because to me, that's where like things would get interesting between them. I don't find them to be like offensive or anything. I just don't find them to be particularly like story-wise. I'm not that into it. But I would like to see what happens between them in conflict and to see that like breakdown and then rebuild. So that's something that was sparking for me from the previews. I'm also curious about what Alexis is briefing Sprina about and how that comes into play. I'm assuming that maybe Sam tells Alexis about Ryan.
That's what I think.
So I really want to see Sprina's reaction to finding out that Ryan is Esme's dad. I never really even thought about, it's just been so long of like that being a secret. I hadn't even really thought about what the fallout of everyone finding that out would be, and I think that could be really fun.
I'm really excited for the Sprina kiss. I shared this with Sandra earlier. Like, I'm trying to like not complain about stuff, but I really wish that it wasn't happening when Trina was like so upset. Like, I would have loved for them to have had like a romantic kiss, like leading up to the wedding, or like when she was kind of on cloud nine, and then and because I'm greedy, another set of kisses at the like after, when he's comforting her. You know what I'm saying? I'm always getting my first kiss, already thinking about the next few. But I am excited for them. I'm excited that it made the cover of Soap Opera Digest, even though sometimes the inside of Soap Opera Digest. But I am excited they made the cover. And so, like, if you think about Tabiana, she's been on the cover of the People 60th edition, which I got in the mail. It just got in the mail like yesterday. And then she's also been on the cover of the past two Soap Opera Digests. So I think that is just like very cool that she's our cover girl, and that she's in story that is exciting, and that we have all been waiting so long for a Sprina kiss that it makes the cover of a magazine, which is really cool. So excited for that, excited to see where that takes us. And it feels like next week should be really interesting. I didn't hear a lot of like dead baby or like cancer baby spoilers, and so that is like one of the least exciting stories. So it feels like we are sticking to the stories that have movement and momentum and excitement.
Yeah, it feels like that's got banished to March. Good riddance. I'll say with Sprina, I think it makes sense that they would have this be the setting for their first kiss, that there be some turmoil, because it's also like mirroring their first almost kiss. But in like a kind of reverse roles. I think if Trina was like my real life niece, it's not what I would want. But Trina as a soap heroine, I think it's fitting.
I appreciate that distinction. Sometimes I forget she's not really my niece.
Because I think about like all like the epic first kisses in like soap operas and in the romance genre in general, there usually is some element of angst that like finally that motivates the characters to act on their feelings finally.
You're right. You're right. I mean, also, like, let's be clear, I was the person who wanted Rory to be hooked while they were having their first time. Like, I wanted it to be like a side by side. So, like, I'm a mess. Don't listen to me. You know. Anything else for the good of the order before we wrap it up?
I am very much looking forward to next week talking about Sprina and the hook and Ava and Mess and hopefully some surprise Vanna because they weren't in the spoilers. Yeah, I'm manifesting a very juicy Sunday shift next week.
Yes, manifest that. All right, y'all. Thanks for listening. As always, follow us on our Instagram because that is where at Sunday Shift we are more online. And we will see you next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.